I'll never forget that winter. About 10 years ago, a friend and I decided to rent a cabin up in the mountains for a weekend getaway. The drive up was already tense. Roads narrowed, slick with ice, snow piling against the edges like walls. The forest pressed in close, tall pines bending under the weight of frozen branches, and there was no one else around for miles. By the time we reached the cabin, it was late afternoon, the sun barely touching the tops of the trees. Beautiful and peaceful. But something felt off. The cabin had this old smell, wood, smoke, and something else that reminded me of damp earth and decay. That first night we built a fire, drank some whiskey, and laughed at how isolated we were. Around midnight I woke up to a tapping sound. Soft at first, like wind or branches brushing the windows. But then it got deliberate, steady, almost rhythmic, like fingernails rapping against wood. I nudged my friend, he was out cold, so I grabbed my flashlight and walked around the cabin. There was nothing that could have made that sound. Snow falling outside muted every sound, and the forest was silent. I shook it off, went back to bed, but couldn't sleep. Morning came, pale and gray. I went outside to clear snow from the door, and that's when I saw the footprints. Long, wide, definitely not human. They circled the cabin, pressed deep into the fresh snow. My friend joked, "Bear," but I knew bears didn't leave prints that went up to the windows and then vanish. We packed quickly, trying to laugh it off, but driving down the mountain felt wrong. Trees leaned closer than they should, shadows stretching unnaturally. At the edge of the tree line, I thought I saw something tall, thin, just standing there, watching us leave. We never returned. And even now, whenever I see snow falling, thick and silent, I feel that weight again. Like someone is out there, just watching. This one happened in upstate New York. A group of teenagers decided to go ice fishing one winter. The lake was remote, frozen, and thick with ice in some places, thin in others. None of them were supposed to be out there. One of them, Tyler, went further out than the others, ignoring the warnings about thin ice. They called to him, laughter and shouting lost in the wind. Then came the first crack. Sharp, echoing, spreading like lightning across the ice. Tyler didn't answer. The others ran toward him, their boots scraping the snow. By the time they reached the spot, all they saw was a ripple under the ice and his fishing pole leaning at a strange angle. Panic set in. They called for help, screaming over the wind. Hours later, divers pulled him out. His body was pale, frozen solid. But the strangest part, the part that no one could explain, was what the teens remembered before the ice cracked. When they called to him, it wasn't his voice that answered. Something else, a distorted, hollow, almost human laugh echoing from beneath the ice. Something that sent chills down their spines and refused to leave them for years. The lake was drained the next year for safety inspections, but locals still say that if you step on thin ice during a quiet winter night, you can hear it, a faint, cold laugh rising from the frozen depths. A few years back, a man named Greg was driving home from a late shift in northern Minnesota during a blizzard. The snow was relentless, the kind that swallows everything in a white haze. Visibility was minimal and cell service was spotty. Halfway through his drive, his car slid off the highway and got stuck in a deep drift. Hours passed, the wind howling like wolves. He tried calling for help, but nothing. After what felt like forever, headlights appeared in the whiteout. Relief hit him. Someone finally. A car emerged, slowly approaching through the storm. The car stopped and a man stepped out. Tall, bundled in winter clothes, hood pulled low, face shadowed. "Need a ride?" the stranger asked. Greg nodded, shivering. Inside the car, the heat was welcome, but the silence was heavy. The stranger didn't speak much. The roads seemed wrong, curving through dense woods where no highway should exist. Greg asked where they were going, but the man just smiled. A crooked, toothy smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then headlights appeared behind them. Another vehicle, too close, following. Greg panicked, saying, "Stop! I don't know where we are." The stranger just laughed. The car swerved onto a narrow snow-covered trail, twisting through the woods with impossible turns. Hours seemed to pass, though it could have been minutes. Finally, the stranger stopped at a frozen clearing, miles from the highway. Greg tried the door, it was locked. He screamed, pounded, but nothing. The man turned slowly, the grin widening. And then, just like that, the car slid a little into the snow, leaving Greg alone. The next morning, he woke up in his own car, stuck at the edge of the highway. The tracks from the stranger's car were gone. Only the memory remained, the grin, the impossible detour, the cold that seemed to follow him for weeks.